Did little Johnny just learn his first swear word this weekend? Hi, my name's Jane Marshall, and I don't know about you, but I find it troublesome when working on my cars or on bikes, and I lose my temper, and now all of a sudden I have to explain to my kids what these words they've never heard before mean. I don't think that's right, and I don't think you should have to go through that either. Is it our fault? No, of course it's not. It's that engineer who designed this system in your car when you're trying to replace a spark plug and you got to reach under the hood and there's a wire or fuel line that goes right across where you're trying to reach. That's not on. And don't you wish that you could just send this guy an email and explain all of the hardship that you've been through and all the harm he's done to your family values as you say a bad word in front of your kid? Try using this new app called Docs and Engineer. You take your phone, you take a photo of a car or a mechanical system or an electrical system, and it will tell you the engineer who designed it, when it was created, and will give you an email address so that you can fire him an email and explain why what he did was wrong and how you can make it better. Let's say you're old school though, and you don't really know how to send an email. Well, don't worry. You can ask your kids, and this app will also give you their address. I don't recommend that you drive to their house and meet them, but you can buy a stamp, write a letter, send it to them, and tell them to do it better. I know some days it's quitting time. They're trying to get out of the office early, but that shouldn't be the reason why you can't uphold those wholesome values in your home on the weekend while you're teaching your kid what to do, what man was meant to do.
Thank you very much for that, Jaden. We actually have a question here from the audience.
Yep.
Steve, what's your question? Hi, Jaden. My name is Steve, longtime listener, first-time caller, and nothing I like to do more in my life than hassle people when they don't want to be bothered. That gives me a feeling of joy and happiness that really it surpasses even my marriage. And I'm glad that you guys are now providing this service. But I have to ask, how do you get around these pesky privacy and anti-bullying laws? They have ruined the last 5 years of me doxing people online.
Well, thank you for asking. I do have an answer for that. We've gone down two routes because we know if we only try one, we might fail. The first one is, this is a First Amendment protected right, or I'm not American. It's an amendment right that you can say whatever you want to whomever you want. That's how America works. The second one is that you're not actually bullying or harming this guy. You're providing him critical feedback. And that's something we need more of. That's what America was built on. Critical, positive, or negative feedback. And that's also an amendment. So we've got two amendments that we're using to protect your right. Yeah. Really, there's nothing more America than docsnengineer.com.
Constructive feedback, constructive criticism, bordering on harassment.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue though would be like having to translate some of these names. Like you're going to go send it to this engineer, but this engineer's from India or he's from Japan, back when Japan was making everything, and you got to translate it and then be able to put it on a stamp or send the right email to it. There's people who just would not, sure they can use a computer and send an email, but they just wouldn't be able to send it to this person because they're having issues trying to...
It's blowing my mind right now.
Yeah. Why is that?
I think this is extended intro, but so if I'm writing a letter in North America in English, and I'm sending it to a place that doesn't use our alphabet.
Yeah.
How does it get there?
I don't know. That's a good question. We could probably just create another website and we'll do it for them. Tell you what, we'll add that. It'll be an add-on. So it'll be like a subscription fee to the website. So you say, hey, for an extra $5 a month, when you email these engineers, you don't have to actually email them. You don't even have to click anything. You just type in the message you want to send and we'll send it on your behalf. And we'll make sure that...
You don't even have to make a message.
Yeah.
All you need to do is scan the barcode and then
scan the barcode.
Your level of frustration. And we will draft a bespoke message for you to send to this person.
And then for an extra $100, we'll send someone to their house.
Just a nasty thing.
Yeah.
You suck.
Yeah. Would you like this message attached to an email or to a brick through the front window?
Completely legal First Amendment rights. That's what America was built on. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I don't know though, because when you bring up that point about how you would send like a letter, my big thought is like the postal code. Because, well, I guess it would just be in a different language, but there's probably a number and letter system. Oh, maybe there isn't. I
Not
guess
letters,
because it's
definitely numbers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's because it's all like country. Like it's not like the metric system or some type of system that everyone's adopted, right? Like it's per country. So you probably like, because first someone will receive it in Canada, they'll read it. Oh, it wants to go to I don't know, Kuwait or something. They'll then just make sure that it gets to Kuwait, and then Kuwait will kind of like, they don't need to read what country it's going to anymore. They'll just then look at the postal code, get it to the right area, and then look at the house number or something and get it to the right area again. So
Yeah, but that's a great example because all of their stuff is in Arabic,
yeah,
right? If somebody says the word to me in English and they pronounce it and then spell it in English,
yeah,
and write it down in English, doesn't mean that it will backwards translate again into the Arabic symbols, especially if it's being done by a computer of some sort.
yeah,
So I can't imagine that there's a person in whatever country's sorting office who's just looking for foreign correspondence, like one human being. That's way too much.
yeah. Well, we could probably, we probably just cut out the middleman and just not send any of the letters and just say that every engineer is from some other country in some other language, and be like, sure, you can send them a letter to this address, and then it just, as long as it doesn't end up, yeah, you just write down your frustration. Like it's like those self-help things where you're supposed to, like, if someone's wronged you, you write them a letter and then you burn it so that you let it go. Like that's the service we're providing, really. Like it's just as American as everything else we said. So
Yeah, if not more so.
yeah.
What's that? Just a pack of lies?
Yeah. I guess I should mention, here's the story of what made me think of something like this. Is it was
Should we do the intro yet?
that was the intro.
Yeah, but I mean, introduce the program.
Oh, yeah, sure. Let's do it. Your turn. I did it last time.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sierra Bravo. My name's Ward, and this is Jaden, and we have a great episode lined up for you today.
Yeah, today we're meeting for our very second episode of the first season, and some of the concepts or ideas we're going to be discussing today will be, I got a vehicle story that'll come next. We're going to talk a little bit about hacking the YouTube algorithm, UBI, future power generation, a little bit of social commentary, and we'll see if there's time for anything else. There we go. That's pretty good. That's at least worth like one subscriber, so that's a good start. Yeah.
Let's hear about this vehicle story.
So the vehicle story was simply this: I drove to the gym, which we're not allowed to do now, but gyms were open for a little while, and then I went, did my workout, came back out. Car wouldn't start. I wasn't getting any fuel to the engine. I double checked that, and it was dark, and I probably should know better, but I checked the fuse, but the fuse was fine. I kind of looked at the relays, the relay. Well, it turned out the relay was burnt, but I couldn't see it because it was dark. And the other thing I didn't do is I didn't like pull the relay out and like directly, inspect it. I just took a quick look and was like, it looks fine, which was my mistake. And so I tried replacing the fuel pump, thinking that might have gone, just testing things, replacing things. So the fuel pump didn't work. I then realized after the fuel pump that it was the relay that was burnt. So I took the relay out and got a new one. But then I got like a little power checker that'll tell me whether or not there's power going to each socket or to each system in the vehicle. And then I found out one of these sockets was not getting enough power. So I contacted my dad, and my dad helped me out quite a bit and said, we can just run power from one other socket to power two relays. So that's what I did. And I got it working again. But it turns out the reason we figured this out was because this is a known problem for the year and model of the vehicle I was driving. And their fix is get like a whole new fuse box, which would have cost me quite a bit of money. Like versus the $120 I would have spent, it probably would have been like 300, maybe not, but it would have been more, that's for sure, than just $5 and like not even $5 in wire. But I then as I was like replacing the fuel pump, there's like a dainty clip that I kind of used to clip the fuel line back on the fuel pump, and I broke it. So I put it back in, and I kind of like pulled on it, and was like, this will work fine. And car's running, so I take the fiance and say, hey, let's go, let's celebrate. Let's go get some ice cream. We go, we get some ice cream. We're eating our ice cream in the car in the parking lot because it's still a little chilly. It's not hot enough to eat outside. And someone comes and knocks on the door and says, hey, you're leaking fuel. Oh, thank you. So I get out, look. Sure enough, what actually was happening is the fuel pump was just throwing fuel overboard. And so there was a lot of fuel coming out. And so I just said, hey, we're 5 minutes from home. Drive, don't stop. And we're driving home, and everyone's flashing their lights, honking their horn, waving at us. And I just wave back and like, I know. And we're just, we're going, everyone's trying to stop us. And the fiance then says, oh, good thing, we got half a fuel tank of gas. And I said, we had 3/4 when we left. Anyways, we get home, and sure enough, that connection didn't marry up properly, and the retaining, it's not a pin, it was kind of like a clamp, little plastic thing was just not holding it. So I put it all in, and I used some wire to also fix that, which worked, and it's been running good ever since. And I really made sure that it worked. But anyways, my struggles with all this, with a faulty thing that they built that has been happening. I mean, I probably should have checked first online whether or not this is a reoccurring problem, but a faulty thing that was built, and then dainty clips that are almost like, I was just struggling to get everything on and off without breaking anything, and the fuel pump sitting in the trunk. So I had to like take everything out of the trunk, lift up some panels, unscrew some stuff just to get at the fuel pump. Where I just thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice if I could figure out who designed exactly what part, and then send them a little email or an update. I probably wouldn't do that because that requires effort, but it was a funny thought was all. So that's where the ad came from.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I have a quick vignette for you.
Let's hear it.
Recently, for some reason, I have heard a whole bunch about men's health. I was involved in like 2 separate conversations with 2 completely groups of people. We were talking about like circumcisions and what's the other one? Not getting snipped. I can't remember what it's called. They take the laser and they shoot.
Yeah, like a vasectomy?
Vasectomy, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all this to say is that a good buddy of mine recently got circumcised as an adult. And it sounds absolutely terrible.
Like,
yeah.
Like, was it like a little
suboptimal,
like a little guillotine, or what? What did they use?
Guillotine.
well, just like.
I don't know what they used, but I understand it was like maybe some sort of like a large toenail clipper, because it has like.
That's even scarier.
Yeah, well, they just kind of like pull it out.
Yeah,
like a sharp pain. They just a couple snips, good to go.
And
the thing is, so he had to do it because like he had other stuff that was going on that required him to do it. It wasn't really a choice.
Oh, okay.
But for the amount of pain that this guy went through, it is hard for me to understand why anybody would do this willingly as an adult, because it sounds absolutely suboptimal.
I don't know anyone who does do that. I thought it was all when you were a kid. Like,
yeah, normally it's
like
only when
like baby. Yeah.
Yeah, and now I was looking into like which countries actually have circumcision illegal, because like I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I guess there still is. It's called female circumcision, but
it's really like
kind of,
they do drop like acid or something on the
yeah. So like even though they use the same word, it has none of that kind of health benefits or any of that kind of jazz.
It just desensitizes, is my understanding.
Yeah, 100%. It's essentially torture. Wrong word. It's essentially genital mutilation.
Yeah. for the
So
female.
that's illegal essentially everywhere. But like male circumcision is becoming more and more common being illegal.
Yeah. Well, I could understand why. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that was
I
it. I just wanted to let
yeah.
my buddy
Yeah, I got nothing more to add or riff off of that. Just I don't I think that kind of like aligns a lot. Well, I think it's very much more religious now than anything. I mean, some people do some stuff for some health benefits, but yeah, I yeah, the just the female stuff. I've heard about that before, and it's not does not sound
No,
useful.
it sounds absolutely terrible. Like,
Yeah,
and that one is like even the nomenclature for it is super
yeah,
questionable
like
because like they
miss.
use the term female circumcision. It makes it sound like some sort of medical term instead of
Big hand
genital.
wavy. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of like the evil that it really is. I mean, like
Yeah. We're
if you
just
didn't
gonna
know what they were talking about, you'd be
yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'm certain." Like it happens at birth. Nobody cares. Like your kid getting their ears pierced or whatever the case is.
It's
Like,
like
no,
a
that's not what it is.
yeah, it's like a clown, like actually a serial killer, but now we just dressed it up in like some type of fancy suit. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Oh, it's a
He can't
clown,
be a
kids,
murderer.
but we'll
His
be
name is
friendly. Yeah.
Bobo. Like
Yeah.
completely innocent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, one
Um
hundred percent.
I wanted to really quickly touch on hacking the YouTube algorithm, just because
Mm,
something I learned recently was you can leverage. They now have like a vote system, so you can vote to have. Well, no, sorry, you just set up a poll, and some people can vote on stuff on that, but that poll can be shown more easily across subscription feeds or something like that, and and it also they get relatively high interaction, especially because all you do you see it for half a second, you just tap on because they don't tell you the results until you have to click on one of the answers either, right? So it's
mhm.
got pretty reasonable interaction rates, and then as soon as someone's interacted now with a poll that your group or your channel has created, now you kind of start popping up in their feed a little bit more, and yeah, and I just learned about that. Thought that was interesting because I know YouTube right now they're also trying to do something along the lines like what TikTok's doing, and they're really trying, and I think the polls thing's very much from Twitter or Reddit, and they're all just starting to kind of like amalgamate, so they use whatever is their bread and butter, but then they're just trying to like see how they can operate more effectively and not stay behind because it's getting pretty cutthroat, I guess. I mean, you look at like the stocks and stuff, like Twitter was up and then down, and Instagram's had a fantastic year, and then Snapchat just went through the roof. Like they're like the way people are migrating from platform to platform and what everyone's using is just
Mhm.
crazy. Because yeah, whoever owns TikTok's just making. I guess TikTok isn't even like the bread and butter of like whatever company created it. The company that created TikTok, from my understanding, they're what they really do is they sell their algorithm, and
That's what I heard.
they just used like, oh, we'll create a little thing and then like look at how good our algorithm is at recommending things, but then they just got
Hmm.
like it's like crack and just like drip 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 of dopamine as they just show you a little video after video, and it does things like auto scrolls, auto like you could just sit there and then it's your brain is just being like orientated to something new every
Yeah,
15 seconds, and
yeah,
now
yeah,
someone
yeah.
spends like an hour when I'll just look at one or two, and now they've spent like hours on there just from a little video. Because I mean, YouTube's definitely trying to do that with like 10 10-minute videos or whatever their number is now that they really like. But even Netflix is trying to get away from having people have to like scroll and find all these movies. They want to get really good at recommending. All you got to do is turn it on, and they can show you exactly what you want to watch immediately, so that they
Mhm.
just get you
I do,
engaged.
I do find that larger companies like YouTube and Netflix do this in a more ethical way, right? So they have built-in stops to whatever to disengage you so that you go eat or you like walk or you just get up or whatever the case is. Maybe that's to like save bandwidth instead of them just playing this stuff on repeat as you're sleeping. But
Hmm.
the self licking lollipop that is the algorithm has built in like it'll stop, the autoplay will stop every once in a while to make sure that are you still there, are you still a human, like if you don't interact with this thing it's just going to stop moving.
Yeah.
And I like that. And I understand that TikTok does not do that. Like their game, and is TikTok even monetized? Like their game is just to keep you interested for as long as possible.
I think they'd have to be. There's definitely got to be some type of money. Oh, actually, you know what they're probably doing is they're probably selling your data mostly. Like ads are
Yeah,
all fine
100%.
and dandy, but they're like, oh, user connect you. Like if you do login through Google or something, and then boom, like all this extra information about you. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, there
Yeah.
was this like open research report by this American internet security company, and they were talking about the first iteration of TikTok that came out. They ran tests on it, and they tried to de reverse engineer it, and they found that it had like just monstrous access to anything on your phone. Like it had
Mm-hmm.
location services, it had access to change the way that your phone stored personal data. It had the ability to rewrite your phone's interaction security clearances, like with the program itself, all sorts of crazy stuff, most of which I don't understand. But the fact that the app was built in that way and was capturing all this information, sending it back, um, is a little unsettling,
Yeah.
right? Just the fact that that is the thing that they're trading in, because they don't have ads on TikTok. Your participation, the information about you of what you like, that they can sell to whoever at this point, is what they're selling. But that being said, for like a monstrous company like that, that's only been around for what? Like TikTok has only been around for what, 3 years?
I
Two
don't.
years?
I didn't even know it was
Like
3.
Uber,
I thought it was like a year and a half. I don't know. Like not long.
yeah, maybe a year and a half here, but it's definitely like
Oh.
maybe it was in Asia longer. But
Oh. Okay. Gotcha.
like Uber was was trading at a loss, or they were operating at a loss for like the first, I don't know, X number of years,
Mm-hmm.
until very recently, like at least 10 years, they're operating at a loss. And that's just like, that's the way the business is. Like these guys are building their market share. One day they're going to monetize it. They're going to make tons of money.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll all be watching TikTok. Like, you remember Quibi? You remember that crazy idea?
No.
Quick bites. It's supposed to be like high end, like short video stories that you can watch on your phone. But it was like, I want to say it was expensive. I think it was like $15 or $20 for this thing. But it only, all the episodes were like 3 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like YouTube, but like fancy YouTube for rich people.
Well.
All
Oh.
this to say is that
Yeah.
TikTok is going to replace that.
Yeah. I mean, it will. Like, there's the meat because you are what generates the content now, and just the amount of content that can be generated is like I know traditional media seems to have a lot of issues with this, but just on like a per, even if just chance, the amount of content that's created, the chance that something within like created in the next second or uploaded in the next second is reasonable quality is just
Mm-hmm.
crazy. There's just so much of it now.
Yeah, and there's so many programs and like phones and cameras and everything to like help with that. Like people go all out
Yeah.
on this kind of stuff. Like they have multiple phones recording. They have like the new iPhone 12 with like its beautiful 3 cameras, or they have a standalone light system or a microphone system. Like it's a
Yeah.
big deal.
Well, I
Some of these
mean,
guys are putting together excellent movies.
yeah. And even like with this, it just a hobby horse for me, but yeah, like how accessible the technology is to make something produced well is
Yes.
I mean, it costs money, but it's still just more accessible than it ever has been before.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Talking about accessibility, UBI that was on the list here. How
Yeah.
what I'll let you frame it for me.
Yeah. So my thought was, at the beginning of the pandemic, this whole idea of UBI, which has been around for a while, but it came back to the forefront, and I think a lot of that was the old Yang Gang and some other American politicians, and it gained a lot of traction. And then halfway through the pandemic, when people are like, "Oh, I'm staying at home doing nothing, but the world is still turning," obviously you do not need my labor. You don't need me to be standing behind a desk for 40 hours a week to pretend to do work for this machine to keep turning. Uh, UBI became like a more attractive idea, and that's universal basic income. So the idea that everybody accrues or is paid isn't like not even the right word, that you are sent a check or amount of money just for being alive,
Hmm.
and this amount of money is just to keep you on your feet. Anything that you earn on top of that, you spend the money however you wish, but anything you earn on top of that, like, that's your money, you can do whatever you want with it. uh, and I've seen a whole bunch of arguments for it. Ideas that it gives people agency, it allows them to get back on their feet if they're in really dire financial situations. It gives people the flexibility to make decisions on what they want to spend that money on. So, like, instead of them being forced to spend that money on, I don't know, like education retraining program that makes no sense, they could spend it on feeding their kids or starting a business or whatever the case is. All this to say is that the idea of UBI has kind of like fell out of favor in the past couple of months, and I'm wondering why.
I
Like, I
might,
remember this was a huge thing last year,
yeah,
and now it's just like it's quiet.
I,
Nobody cares about this.
well, I might have the solution here, and it's a combination of, or what I think is, well, not the solution, but I think I know why. I think it's a combination of people seeing exactly how high the debt's gone up, and now government starting to transition towards like what they're going to do in the future. But also, if I were to use mortgage as a vignette, right? So they took mortgages and they made it more accessible for first time home buyers. And the thought was, hey, now everyone's going to be able to buy, a house. It'll be easier to buy. But what we actually saw, or what I believe that we actually saw, was now people are buying houses at the same rate, no real differences, and they're not buying the house that was within their budget. They're just using the extra money to get something a little better. And it's not really reining in on habits of spending, or now they've got a mortgage that's a lot more affordable because they don't have to pay as much. They just reached that little extra farther with the help. And the reason why I use mortgages as an example is because mortgages are about to be, we in Canada, mortgages were relaxed a little bit. There was assistance for first-time homebuyers, but now they're about to be reined in on again. The government or the banks or whomever has said, hey, this isn't actually, like, the outcome isn't quite what we wanted. So now we're going to need to rein in to stop some of this crazy spending habits that are going on. And that's just what I think. And I think with UBI, they've now handed out a couple stimulus checks. I know Canada gave out a bunch of stuff for a little while. They saw it tested. It helped bring back the stock market. That's for sure. Every time something came out, stock market it either stopped descending or it leveled out or it went up. Like, it never went down after they announced that a stimulus check was going out, because it did what it was named to do, stimulate the economy. But we're just seeing the outcome of debt and what people spent it on. I think some people, it can really help them come out of hard times, right? And I definitely understand, like, that we want a safety net so that people will try and take risks, and that if they fail, they're not going to die, because when an economy grows, like, that's really what drives the economy is growth and innovation. And so we want people to take risks, because that's how you get the best growth through innovation.
Mm-hmm.
But we're also seeing that, like, some folks were working, got laid off due to COVID, took the COVID the payout, and I would just, the only thing that I've heard this for is restaurant like waitresses and waiters and stuff. But they were starting to get this payout, and now everything opened back up, and some of the restaurant owners were having a hard time getting their old staff to come back or people to come back, because they could get comparable or even just less money, but then they didn't really have to do as much versus working. And I don't think, like, I think that, like, not everyone's lazy, and I don't know what everything would look like in the long term, but acutely, it didn't really help many of the smaller business owners in Canada, when their staff had to choose between coming back to possibly a similar wage or having to pay more to get the staff to come back, or versus that. All this to say, I don't know why, but I think somewhere in all of the routes of my thought where it just went, that might contribute a bit to that. But I really, I think it's just everyone sees how the debt and now how we're about to shift gears, and now we're looking at wealth taxes to try and recoup all that money that went out the door. And I know right now I'm not super on top of what's happening in Canada, but from what I've heard, the wealth tax is going to be on things like vehicles and stuff that people want to be able to buy. But I think the other thing is people want to be rich too, and they might think, hey, I don't want this certain tax or something to go through because I want to be that wealthy, and when I'm that wealthy, I don't want to be having to pay that. So I think, and I think that like in the States, the American dream, but just that dream of I want to be at that level, and when I get there, I don't want to set myself up for failure, like to show up and just have to funnel all my money away. So I think there's a lot of that, but I definitely think with UBI, I think what might be the real push, because we don't, like you mentioned, like we don't need as many people to work. Like we're now generating more stuff with less energy for the first time in history. I think a couple of years ago, we're now using less energy, but like than the year before, but we're just creating more stuff. We're getting those efficiencies, like in an industrial rate. Yeah, no, like actually, here I'll let you
They were
kind of
using less energy.
like slightly less. Like we've maybe not less, but we're not using as much energy to generate just as much stuff. No, like actually,
What is the
oh, it's
how does COVID work to in that calculation?
this was before COVID. So
So
I
this is in 2019.
when I heard the stat, it was in 2019. Yeah, I was listening to a podcast by Sam Harris, and there was a gentleman who came on. He was talking about energy consumption, and what he was he was actually using this to discuss UBI a little bit. Is that now we're creating just as much and more stuff without as much of the demand on energy, which traditionally has been like a huge employer of people, because we're getting more efficient and we're looking at other sources that don't quite use as many people to generate the energy. And so when we can generate same or more stuff, but we need less energy and materials and things, we just don't need as many people working. And
Mm.
like what happens, especially with automation, like I think there'll be like a second or third industrial revolution. I don't know. I think it's the second one, where the first one was mechanical muscles and this will be mechanical minds. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we're going to see a lot of lower end, it won't be blue collar jobs, it'll be white collar jobs, lower end white collar jobs that'll be replaced by automation. These
Yeah.
are low level engineers, low level lawyers, some doctors stuff. First, it'll come in as like an assistive tool, but then once they're able to get insurance to cover like loss, if once they can insure the same production line or method of creation or thinking, but they can have the insurance covered for bots versus humans. I think that's kind of when we'll see most of the switch, because I look at like trains. Trains run on a track on a scheduled time, and you can hook up a GPS to them. Like they have a conductor and engineer, but the engineer's job is to go and to stop, and like there's more to it than that, but it's move train forward, back, stop, hit brakes, emergency. But we're getting to the point where there's self-driving cars. Like you can put a lidar system on the train. You can have it auto. You can have it run. I think what'll first happen is it'll be running. There will be no engineer in the train, but there'll still be someone like somewhere else operating it. And then at
Mm-hmm.
some point, we'll just have someone operating the train, but like, well, it won't be someone. It'll just be a computer running the train.
Yeah. That I completely agree with where your head's at. I do think that before this kind of mass wave of automation comes aboard us, uh, just with how sensitive we are to climate change now and how much that we governments, we people, governments, and also industry are kind of like pulling in the same direction finally, or at least pretending to. I think a bigger factor in kind of what our work or economy kind of looks like in the future is going to be us like writ large, so government, but more really companies, is toning down this um, the ease that we do everything with, because it's extremely wasteful.
Mm.
Like one day shipping, extremely wasteful. uh, sending a flight to a place in the middle of nowhere, even though it's empty, just because that's the schedule. That's extremely wasteful.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-positioning crazy amounts of food or toys or whatever the case is, just so that you can have the convenience of having a fully stocked shelf, right? So being a little bit more inconvenient as a society, and then just getting used to that, like understanding that you need to plan ahead a little bit. You can't just wake up in the middle of the night and order something off of Amazon, or just walk down to the corner store to do X, Y, and Z, or hop in your car and drive across here. Is that we are going to accept some inconvenience, and I do think that a lot of that has doesn't have too much to do with like people as individuals. I think people as individuals are super okay with some inconveniences, uh, even though it'll suck. People will complain. Really, where this is coming from is that it's getting pushed down our throat by these businesses, right? Like these flights are always happening; they're always there. The expectation of convenience is kind of pushed on us rather than us screaming and knocking down the door for it. Uh, I do not remember ever really feeling any sort of way about like shipping in 3 days or in a week. It's just like it was normal. But now that I have 1 day shipping, it's
Mm-hmm.
extremely hard for me to kind of conceptualize going back to it.
Yeah.
But now that's the standard. And like if Amazon or if one big company does it, all the other big companies have to try and do it, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and creates a more and more wasteful cycle.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be shareholders that'll be on that too, right? If you can reduce your operating costs for and yeah, like capital versus expense and reducing the operating costs. Because right
I don't think
now
that's how shareholders think anymore.
but they want to drive the cost of the stock up.
Yeah. But that's like short-term gain, and
Mm-hmm.
especially with like the large tech companies that we have now, most of them rarely ever operate at a profit because they so quickly, like not only for the tax incentives that I'm sure exist, but they so quickly reinvest any sort of profit that they make
Mm-hmm.
into either expanding the business or looking at different revenue streams,
Okay.
that they are inherently inefficient in certain ways,
Yeah.
right? They don't actually make a profit. But investors are no longer looking at that like short-term gain, 90s Wall Street money never sleeps kind of style, where you come in and you like slash all of the like overhead and you fire 90% of the people and the stock goes up for like a minute, you sell everything and you make like, I don't know, you make $1 million, but you destroyed a $1 billion company. Like
Yeah.
uh I don't think there's too many investors uh who are playing that game. But speaking of which, like when we talked about GameStop, that's exactly the game that these guys who bet against GameStop are playing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where they intentionally they bought against more stock than existed, and then tried to drive down the price so they can make this like just this measly amount of money by betting against somebody, right? Because GameStop was like, it was worth $4, and for them to make any money, they'd have to like buy billions of dollars worth of the stock at $4 a share, which is a ton. And then it would have to go down by like whatever, a couple of cents or $1 or something like that, and they
Yeah.
make these like tiny little margins of profit. Like that's that old school '90s just grinding it out. Like you can't do that. Like a normal everyday investor like you or I, like I don't have enough money for that even to make sense. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
have $5 million that I can make like $10,000 off of and call it a day. You know?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, retail investors will likely. I mean, there's a lot more of us now, and we'll see what they get in the game. But relating, kind of going back, I know we've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole, but back to UBI is I think that we're gonna just need like we don't really need as many people to work to maintain, let alone grow. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I would argue that maybe rather than going straight to UBI, we could consider something more of the lines of like a 4-day work week. Like I think the last time we really made major labor changes in Canada was I think recently it's been with the personal days that have come up, but I think before that, like major change where we went from working like 12 to 10 or 10 to 8 hours was like back in the 60s maybe. I can't, don't quote me on that, but it's been quite a while, and we've just been happy working an 8 hour, 5 day a week. But what if they start doing like cut down to seven, right? Like instead of just okay, we'll take the profits and we'll pay all the people not working. Let's if the companies want to run a 24-hour business or they want to have people in the office, for that many days a week, just cut it down a little bit and then do a rotation like that and really,
Mm.
add it'll be more flexible. There's got to be some type of incentive for the company to do that though, but or just a law where it just, hey, now we're saying a work week is this many hours and this. But I think also like I think of the people that work for my company and the amount of overtime they want to work. But I think young people now though are not as interested and want more time to themselves and would rather work a little bit less. So we'll see. Really, it's going to affect like more professionals, people on salary, versus people who are hourly. Hourly probably aren't going to want to take a cut, but anyone working salary would benefit from a reduced work week. But I guess you'd
Yeah,
have to be
well,
okay with taking less money. So I don't know how that would
yeah,
work.
and I think for both, and like I have not worked hourly in quite some time, but like there's a lot of open space in both, right?
Hmm.
There's a lot of, you just show up, you're at the coffee machine, just grabbing a coffee, or you're hanging out with people, or you're just talking, not actually doing any work. Um, like we can start to trim the fat on that, right? Like, and that goes to my efficiency point that I think there's going to be less call for us just to be convenient all the time. That's going to definitely be like the the next step. And I've tried to adopt in my own life where I'm trying to buy Canadian, which is extremely inconvenient because it is like it
Hmm.
is just difficult.
Yeah.
Like I tried to buy running shoes and I had to get Swiss running shoes because like I couldn't find a Canadian company that made actual running shoes. I found a lot of loafers, but no Canadian running shoes. I found a Canadian ski manufacturer, fantastic, but they're in Quebec, so I gotta like buy online from them to ship it out and blah 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 blah, all this kind of jazz. But that efficiency or that lack of convenience kind of leads into the next point, which is power generation. Like, what does that even look like in the future?
So I have it's gonna sound cocky. I have the solution, but we'll never do it. Um, it's uh, it's
Mansplain away from me, buddy.
straight away, yeah, yeah. Fission, like nuclear fission. I think nuclear's been so overlooked, but it's a useful tool. You can't use it to power everything, but what you can do is you can use it to power that base level of energy that's consumed by cities. There's a certain level where it just doesn't dip because there's an ebb and flow throughout the day where people use less and then more, just based on how the wake rest cycle of a city. So you can get like the base amount from nuclear because you can't really ramp up or ramp down nuclear very quickly. So you can't really have it ebb and flow throughout the day, but you could always have a base amount and then you can use, say, natural gas, coal, or other things. Or if you're actually really good, you could, battery technology gets there or some type of power storage technology. You could run it a little hot and then just store that energy to be released at a later time. I know that's where they're getting into with renewables, but
Mm-hmm.
I would say nuclear, and they're getting better at getting rid like what is it, recycling the waste material or breaking it down in such a way where it's less harmful. Like I'm all about nuclear, but I think we got a couple struggling points here. The first one is NIMBY, not in my backyard. People don't want that type of thing in their backyard. Like they don't want it close because it's scary. And we've seen historically, like you look at what happened in Japan, even just like in the last 10 years, or you look at Russia, Chernobyl. Um, those are huge disasters that killed a lot of people and vacated areas like gone. But the technology is getting a lot safer, and this is my second point about this technology. Why I think we're going to be in for a struggle is it right now. We have the knowledge, but we've lost the understanding and the wisdom. Like we just don't have engineers or people who can design, manage, and run these projects like other places can. So I'm pretty confident that both Russia maybe China, but I'll say Russia for sure. They've been using nuclear, and they've kind of done some upkeep on it, and they have an understanding of how to build these facilities, what types of resources you need, like just like in oil and gas. You need valves, you need pumps, and you need them specifically, like they become specialized for doing this type of work. And as oil and gas sticks around, there's more access to materials and to parts and to maintenance of said parts because there's an industry where people work to serve it. But with nuclear, we're not really building them anymore. And anything we try to do, we can't just build a nuclear power plant in a couple of years because we don't have that understanding. So it's going to probably take us like a while, like a long time to build this. And sure, we'll see dividends in like 100 years, but we're at a point right now where, well, do we want to go down the nuclear or do we want to go down the road of more renewables and then just focus on battery storage for when the energy drops off, and how, it will be quite an investment. I think it's an investment that's worthwhile and will pay off in the long run. But that question, like there's room for debate. So trying to push any of this through, right? Someone who just doesn't want it in their backyard is going to say, well, we don't need it. We're going to do renewable. Let's just go the battery route because everyone like is going to view that as safer. So that's where I think it should go. Where I think it's going to go is likely batteries are going to be optimized, and people are going to be more focused on renewables, and then we'll lean on coal and natural gas when there's emergencies or where we need like lots of power right now. That'll be the system, and that's probably what will continue for the future, unless law or lobbyists decide to get involved. But we're so scared of nuclear now. I just don't think we'll go that way. I wish we would though. I think it'd be better for everyone in the planet. But
I think the tides are changing. I think nuclear is becoming a more viable option. And oh, excuse me, back. And especially since um, not only does nuclear produce a lot of energy for essentially the amount of no, it is a carbon neutral option, right? Uh, Not saying that it has no waste. Like, not only does it have nuclear waste, but it also impacts whatever environment it is because it requires like X number of liters of water so that they can actually cool down the internal pipes, whatever the
mm-hmm.
water source is. The temperature is being raised, which means the local flora and fauna doesn't survive. All this kind of jazz. But this understanding, I think people are becoming more savvy to it, especially looking at what happened in Texas recently, is that nuclear would be an extremely effective and efficient way to give you that steady state, that baseline of power.
Mm-hmm.
And then other renewable resources would be another effective way to give you um, surge power at different times. Right? Combining that with batteries of some sort. But I don't think that batteries will ever become or completely like geothermal or windmills or solar will ever become the solution just because we don't have a way of storing the energy
Mm-hmm.
that's that's cost efficient. Like it, batteries are super expensive and they're super wasteful, and and recycling them is also just very difficult. So centralizing that in like one system, I think, is probably where we're gonna stay for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
do think that kind of oil and gas is going the way of the dodo. But crazy enough, I think it's off the coast of South Africa. Some African country, they have a whole bunch of power generation issues. So what do? They hired a boat or one or two boats or something, and to come down to their coast. And they essentially just hooked up these boats, which have huge generators. These boats are designed for like natural disasters. They have huge generators, and they just hooked up these boats to their system. And these boats run on natural gas, and they're just running a generator off the coast of their country that they're leasing from another country. I'm like, that sounds wildly expensive and super wasteful.
yeah.
So I think there's probably going to be like a short term bridge with more of this for power generation needs. But like you said, 2019 we use less power. I'm surprised by that, but hopefully that trend keeps going.
Yeah. Well, we use less power to generate. I don't know, like if we saw people working less, right? We're less co-located. We probably would again. Actually, I bet you this year we've used significantly more because when you're at home more and you need to keep everything powered and heated versus an office space. I guess if you turned off the office, but people are still working in offices, like for the most part. All I got to say
Not
is that,
everybody.
well, yeah. Well, you
Not,
know what? We'll check that for next time. I'd be very interested to see what it is. I actually have no idea what the outcome would be, but
yeah.
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 And then, well, that's all I got for power generation. Talk a little bit about some social commentary, and then we'll cap her there.
Can we skip to home buying?
Home buying, sure, we can do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, that lends itself pretty well with the mortgage talk. So I was looking at houses. Like I just kind of started, was about to go down that lane, stopped.
Mhm.
But the story goes is I wanted to look at a house, and I was kind of in the middle of getting a mortgage pre-approval, and then I contact the lady, and I was just figuring out what's going on, just trying to get into the market and figure out what's happening in the Edmonton area. And I talked to the lady. I was like, yeah, can I come look at this house? Well, do you have your pre-approval yet? I'm like, no, it's in the works, but it'll come. And she's like, well, I can't show you. I'm like, well, why not? It turns out, like just in like the last couple of weeks prior to me like thinking, oh, I could look at, maybe trying to get a house. Edmonton has turned into like Ontario, BC level of buying where people are like, there's the story that I found. I actually talked to my boss about this like the day after this thing happened. I was like, what's going on? And he said he was listening to CBC, and a guy in Edmonton had his house listed for, let's say $400,000, wasn't selling. He then dropped it to $375, and then someone bought it for $450. Like they there was like, I don't even know if it was a bidding war, but just someone offered just an outrageous price for this house. And after it had been on the market for a while, he lowered it because he thought it was going to sell. And then all of a sudden everything just kicked up and people just thought they needed to buy a house right now. And yeah, he sold it for $50,000 more than he originally wanted after he reduced it by a substantial amount of money. Like crazy. So I learned that and I'm like, oh no. So I houses now I'm looking like some of the houses I had saved to go look at, like gone, sold already. And it's like, I don't really need to do this right now. I could probably just hold off for another year. But it was just crazy how right in the middle of this crazy home thing buying that's going on in Edmonton, I just happened to like, I'll just dip my toe in the water. It turns out there's sharks everywhere, and yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not putting my
yeah, yeah.
It's gotten crazy. Like
Yeah.
we're not talking about buying a place or anything like that, but
Yeah.
we've taken a look.
Yeah.
Right? And it is, luckily we're on the East Coast. So
Yeah.
there's no huge metropolitan areas. But Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, I even heard about Edmonton and Calgary, like housing markets have just gone bonkers.
Yeah.
Like you need to be at least an hour and a half outside of the city to find anything that was even like remotely reasonable.
Yeah, well, when I first thought about houses earlier this year, I was like, yeah, $250,000. That's a lot of money. That I should, be able to find. Like, my goodness, sweet summer child to quote the Wardlands. Yeah, no, it like twice as much. I was like, what? And like the things like I'm like reasonable because like I just don't have the time to reno, and I know how renos go and it was just like I wanted. It doesn't have to be like the perfect house. I was more so interested in even just like property because I grew up on an acreage and that's something I'd like to get back to. But I looked at some acreages and it's just anything in commuting distance to the city, insane.
Yeah.
And they build these houses that are huge that I don't want to clean. Like I almost don't want to move into one of these houses until I have kids old enough to clean just because it's like there's so much work to keep a house that big clean, like 4 bedrooms. It's like I don't need 4 bedrooms. Like now I got to fill it with stuff. And I just like, so I was looking for like a 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, super small but nice. Should no, even those are like 300, 350, and there's not many, and all of them are old because everyone just like built in Alberta. I guess maybe it's because of the oil field, but everyone was just building these, every house 4 bedrooms, 2 or 3 bathrooms. They got like jacuzzi in the backyard, detached garage, all of this stuff, and it's like, and then garages. That's a whole nother story. Like, someone will have a garage. It's, I don't even know if that's an insurable structure or not, or like if it is insurable, that means it's got to go up. And it's like, okay, you built your dream garage. The problem is it's your dream garage. Like I know that what you're asking right now is like $100,000 for that garage, or like 50, and it's just, it's not. I don't want the garage. It'd be super nice. Would I use it? Yes, but it's not. I know how hobbies work. Like, it's not. It's going to be something that I'll pick up and feel bad that I didn't pick it up enough, and like I try to keep to like one or two minimum, with the third one always just being lifting. And then like the one that I do regularly, and the other one's like, from time to time I'll go do this, just because you can't, there's just not enough time. Like, I'm not going to lie to myself and think, oh, I can, like, even just the capital of like tools and parts and cars and just, oh, yeah, like that's been my biggest gripe, is like, because they'll move into the area, super, like the house is nice but a little older, but then they got this huge shop that that's their baby, because they bought when they were younger and they got older and like, oh, I can get a shop, and now they're just asking, wait, like it's just not feasible for me. Like, yeah, like, and you want like something nice neighborhood in Edmonton, like 350, 400, and 350 is kind of not going to be very good. It's going to be like 400, 450. You want like a super nice neighborhood, like, yeah, we're talking 450. It's
No
just,
way. No, with 450. That's. Are we still in Edmonton? Or are we outside
we're
Edmonton?
still in Edmonton. Well, if you go outside and you want an acreage, no acreage for less than, well, I shouldn't be like that, but there are these super rich areas where you have an acreage, but there's tons of houses, and there's still like, just everyone just built a huge house, like a huge house.
Yeah.
And there's still like still 450 for that, like 600. There's like $1 million homes. Like, you're looking in a neighborhood, and the houses will, like, the price will range from 500,000 to $1 million, and it just like, it's like, I literally got scared and just stopped looking. And then my dad started sending me stuff where it was actually reasonable. And it's like, okay, like, then you got to consider like, well, am I going to stay here for a while? Where do I go? How much do I give up the flexibility just yet?
Yeah, yeah.
And there's there is some stuff if you look, but it's got to, like, it's almost niche. Like, I looked at this one place. It had like the basement suite I'm in right now, like 900 square feet. The house was like 650.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
small. It would have, like,
Right?
it was riverfront, but like, sorry, not riverfront. It was like almost half an acre. It was waterfront on like Antler Lake. Nice property. The price was a little more, like, significantly more reasonable, but then it's just like, okay, all I'm doing is buying this to put a new house on it. So I
Yeah,
just
I'm pretty
like,
sure you can get a camper with more space.
yeah, probably actually, but, and then it's like, okay, well, how much would I want to pay for a lot like this? And I'm just doing the math, and I'm like, it's still like, not, doesn't make actual sense, because I would probably have to spend at least another 100,000 to, or 150, putting on, like, because wood prices went through the roof too. So it just doesn't make any sense. Like,
Oh,
it's not good for new buyers, that's for sure.
I love all these memes of people like dealing wood like they're dealing drugs. Like,
Yeah,
hey man, I
yeah,
got 8 2x4s by 8s. What's up? What's up? I got them on sale.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Typically
The house
$100
market.
for you, 60.
Yeah. But there's always been a certain like mystique in my mind to build your own place.
Hmm.
I would love to do that. Not even a place that I live in, maybe just a cabin or something. And I have this just emotional reaction to shipping container homes, like
Yeah,
shipping container cabins. I think they look awesome.
Yeah.
So I've always wanted to do that, and that's kind of where my head's at.
I'd like if I had time. Like the biggest thing is it take a lot of time. It takes a lot of capital and a lot of patience. Because my dad did that, but my dad like actually built and then ended up building like a mansion. If you
Oh my
come,
god.
yeah, if you come out to the wedding, you'll be. I'll show you. Oh, it's pretty. It's a super nice place to have grown up. Impossible to do that now on like the wage that I'm trying to get started on life in. But um, I think I mean I'm not sure you need the advice or not, but the biggest thing I know that my dad has told me going through all the stuff that he's done is like you really just got to consider like size and like how sellable is it, because you know you can make it super niche and for you, but then it's harder to sell, and then you got to wait around, and you're not necessarily putting off retirement, but you're putting off that phase in your life where you should be going and like traveling or something, and maybe it's all hit or miss, but they find there's certain home builders where like they build boring houses, but they just sell. So it's like there's like people just seem to want boring. Like it's just easier to buy a boring home versus like because you'd probably have something like crazy like custom wood staircases and
Yeah, 100%.
yeah. It'd be fantastic. But then
Either
like
you love it or
yeah
you hate it.
yeah
Like,
you'd
there's
have
no
to like go to an art gallery and be like, here's some photos. You could buy the house here because this is a piece of art. It does not belong on Realtor.ca.
yeah. I don't even know if we would want to sell this place. Like,
Oh,
whatever, just
okay.
keep it used as a cabin or something.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah. Oh, there you go.
I've been to too many places where, it's a buddy's dad or uncle or mom or wherever. It's like, oh yeah, I bought this cabin back in 19 blah blah blah, and I bought it on a song, like on just a prayer, and now this place is worth like high six figures,
Oh my
like
goodness.
just out of control because they bought it on a piece of land that was worth nothing 40 years ago, and now so many other people have kind of moved into their area that
Yeah,
it's now a big deal. Like that's what I would love.
yeah.
A little bitty piece of property in the middle of nowhere that like me and the friend can go out to and have a good time, and then one day, 80 years down the line, when I'm dead, my kids can sell it off for a boatload of money and do whatever they want.
Real family man.
Yeah. I gotta keep them solvent.
Yeah, yeah. Just make sure they're obedient. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
no. We're
100%.
yeah, yeah. Well, I guess. Do we need anything to play us out? Do we need one last ad, or maybe this is like just. Oh, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Sounds like you got an idea.
No.
Oh, okay.
No more ads for
Your
me.
your ad here. This is the ad. Put your ad here so we have
Yeah.
something to talk about. Call us up.
Yeah.
Just put a comment in with your email address, and we'll email you, and you email back us some money. Preferably
Yeah, we're
crypto, non-trackable.
great,
Yeah.
great salesman. We'll
Yeah.
chill anything. You got socks, we'll sell socks.
Yeah. You got. Yeah. Let's socks. We'll sell socks. Someone. I was trying to think of something we could like relate back to from our conversations, but it's like, sure, we could try and sell nuclear energy, but I don't know if this is the right place for that. Or
Yeah, I feel
yeah,
like we get on the
ad,
wrong watch list real quickly.
yeah, advertise your house here. But no, it's good seeing you. We'll do this again. I'll try and get this up soon. But thanks for listening. If you liked what we did, please subscribe. If you have any critiques or comments, something that we can improve, let us know, and we'll definitely consider it. But you're not my dad.
But you can take your points, ideas,
Yeah.
which is a complaint, and you know exactly where to put them.
Yeah.
Just put them there.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, though, like if you enjoyed what we're putting out here, make sure you smash that like button. And if you want to see more of this content, make sure that you smash that subscribe button.
Gonna have to like make sure. I'm gonna have to engineer that a little bit, make sure it doesn't blow anyone's eardrums out while they're listening.
Yeah, much appreciated.
Yeah. Get some insurance claim. Hey, my ears don't work so good now.
I smashed it.
Yeah.
Now it's death.
Yeah. I smashed the like button, and now my computer's broken.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you very much. Everyone have a great day. Take care.